Hi everyone, I'm Sloan from SloanBella.com and I'm back with another channeled celebrity video. This one is a much requested video on the late musician Amy Winehouse. And what's so interesting about it is, before I even considered doing her, even though y'all were writing and wanting me to channel her energy, I did a third video on Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell where Amy stepped forward in between the two, or they brought her forward and introduced her, which was kind of interesting because I thought her energy would have come through sooner. But my understanding of what's been going on with her is she's starting to wake up on the other side and starting to understand about how her life played out on this side. So as I do with my clients and with people I'm trying to channel, I went running this morning and I asked Amy to come through. The energy I got was so interesting, but I first wanted to start with her astrology information, her astrological fingerprints, so to speak. I just love astrology and I love how concise it is, although it is a very, very long studied thing to actually be able to understand the movement of these planets because they're constantly moving, much like Amy. Amy, of course, was a Gemini rising, Virgo sun. The thing I found most interesting in her chart was that her 0-degree Capricorn moon was placed just over the 8th house cusp, resting nicely right there, with an out of sign conjunction from Neptune in the 7th house in 26 degrees of Sagittarius. That, to me, opened up the chart in a big way. So as I was thinking about her chart while I was running, actually thinking about the placement of the planets, I began to pick up on her energy, and she shot me right back into her most recent past life, where she was a darker skinned woman who sang in the most recent past life. Okay, so she's showing me that she's standing, and it's a very old kind of 1940s mic. I can see it. It's like in a speakeasy. That's the word I was looking for when I first tried to do the video, and I used the word beatnik club for some reason. It came out of my mouth. She may have been there too. But I saw this microphone, and it was like a speakeasy where she was singing. It was kind of like she was off in the corner, and she was this very gorgeous, curvy, short-haired, kind of two-tone skin. So it looks like she was a mix of something, but darker skin. She would have been seen as a dark skin or African-American woman in that lifetime, but she was very curvy and very sexy. I feel like I know who she is, but I don't, because I'm not familiar and I'm not getting a name, but I feel the cat eyes were the same in the last life. She did it, and she was very dressed in the 40s. She had her men behind her. By that I mean her band was male, and it was predominantly male. She carried that love of connecting with male musicians into this life. Like, there was this connection with her where she got along really well with men. That's no surprise because she had this ginormous voice and this very interesting and unique way of expression, which is very much like a Gemini rising. But she also had placements in her 3rd house, which elevated that Gemini rising. So when I'm looking at her energy and I'm looking at this most recent past life, I'm seeing her as a woman in her early 30s, okay? This is just where I'm going in my head. She's in her early 30s. There's people smoking. There's these really cool skirts. People are sweating, but they're wearing way too many clothes. You remember back in the day? I don't remember. You guys probably don't remember. Back in the day, everybody had to be fully clothed, and they were all like uptight on the clothing. But I'm seeing these people, and I'm seeing the dim lights of the club, and I'm seeing her, and she's moving, and she's hypnotic when she's singing, like she was in this lifetime. And then for some reason, when she's about 33, 34, I see her leaving that life. And it's a shock to her. I do see that she had a baby. She had a baby in that life, okay? So there was a child that she left behind. I see the baby maybe no older than about 1.5 in a high chair, in a little high chair. And I do see a man at home. I don't know if that's the baby's father or who that was. And I see the band members here. And then my vision narrows and closes out. What I feel happened with her was some kind of either blood pressure constriction or heart constriction, because my eyes go boom like this, and I'm literally crossed out and I stepped onto the other side. This is me being Amy. This is what I'm feeling from her. She's showing me that when she died in that lifetime, it was absolutely horrific for her. Horrific. Meaning she just popped out of her body and did not want to go, didn't know what happened. I'm seeing her like trying to be consoled on the other side as to what happened, not getting to fulfill her dreams. I am seeing that before she passed out of that life, she was supposed to go on to something bigger. She's telling me about traveling to Chicago. She's also telling me about traveling to New York, although that's not where she's from. She's from somewhere else. I'm almost going to say, okay, wherever the bayou is where she actually is. So I don't know if I'm talking like Mississippi or where, that's where she's starting from, but I'm seeing her go big cities, okay? So she's showing me these other musicians, and she's about to take her stride and her step and get her power. It's really quite like overwhelming for her. She's about to get where she's going. And then I see this baby at home, and I see the man, his sleeves are rolled up. He's feeding the baby, but this is what he did. He raised that child. I'm trying to see if the child is a boy or girl, and I'm actually going with a male child at that time. So I feel like these two men here, the big man and the baby man, are left to themselves, and then she's left over here and out of her body, but her vision just constricted right in, and boom, out she went. She went out basically through the third eye is what I'm seeing. That to me is either it's a narrowing of arteries, a narrowing of blood pressure, a narrowing of heart, but just boom, like this and right out. When she stepped out of her body in that lifetime, her immediate response was, I need to get back. I need to get back. Okay. So this is what I'm feeling. And then I'm seeing hands on her, like they are trying to heal her on the other side. I feel like when I'm on the other side with her, now this is before she's Amy Winehouse. This is what I'm trying to get. She's really honing me in to that life, because that life explains this life is what she's saying. So that life brings us to this life and allows us to see who she was in this life and where that most unique voice came from and what she was trying to accomplish. I will tell you this life ended like the last life, and it wasn't supposed to be that way either, and she's been confused ever since she crossed over. But I'm going back, I'm being pointed back to the most recent past life. After she stepped out on the other side, the energy that she's showing me is that there are hands on her, okay? So she is aligned, and to me, it feels very angelic. There's nothing unusual about that. I mean, we're going to cross over. We're going to see other light beings and beings that are going to try to heal us. And she's talking about her energy being healed. She's also talking about being double-crossed in a contract in that lifetime, how she was supposed to step forward. And she is also telling me about another male musician, African-American, who was guiding her career at that time, guiding her career. She may have done something like where she was a backup singer and then she was stepping forward with that beautiful mic. It's a 40s mic and it's absolutely fabulous. I don't know, I'm obsessed with it at this point. Like, I want one of those microphones. I don't know what I do with it because I don't know where to put it, and I don't sing. However, I'm just seeing it. So I think she went from backup to front and center, and then these men were behind her, or this was her second gig and she was doing it. As the backup person with the man over here, she's singing backup for him and then forward for herself. And as she started to be seen forward, she's kind of showing me in the past life that she really wanted to be with this man. Maybe it is to be with his career, or maybe to actually be with him. But I feel like she started to inhabit his behaviors or take on, like, okay, for example, if you're with somebody who behaves in a certain way and you want to be with them, you probably will pick up some of those characteristics. This is what she did. I'm really kind of going to the fact that this woman kind of like the drug thing. So I think she may have had a drug OD in the past life. Maybe that's what the eyes are narrowing, or it did something to her heart or her blood pressure. But I actually think I'm going along the lines of a heroin addiction in the most recent past life. I am not talking about this life. And then I'm looking out of some sort of an apartment window. It to me looks like it's got to be Chicago. I don't know why I want to say that. Maybe it's a hotel window. And then I'm seeing her slumped on the floor and she literally passes out. She steps through. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know if the man encouraged her to do it or she just started to want to do what he did, which tells me he was a drug addict, or at least at that time. So I'm seeing that, and her life ended. Boom, ended. As she steps into this life, now what she's saying is, when she was born Amy Winehouse, she's saying I was behind. I had to play catch up. So there was something in the forefront of her mind her entire life where she's like, I have to play catch up. I'm behind. I'm behind. So I don't think she understood exactly, maybe the memories of the past soul are on this soul, the Amy Winehouse soul, and that this soul wants to hurry up and catch up to that life, which has already been lived. It's really weird. She's kind of going through time like this with me, but that's how I'm seeing her, okay? So I'm seeing her wanting to catch up. This kid was rambunctious and wanting to catch up, wanting to catch up, wanting to catch up. Now, what's interesting, as I go back to initially when I said she had the Capricorn moon in the 8th house ever so slightly, with the out of sign conjunction in Sagittarius in the 7th house, that gave the Capricorn energy not quite as harsh a cover. It kind of softened it and made things a little bit more fun, which is good, but also made things a little bit more like, I'm going to do anything and everything that comes to my mind, because that's the Sagittarius energy. I think I'll do whatever I want to do. And you know, I get a crazy thought in my head, so let me go outside and jump over the fence and do whatever. That's kind of a Sagittarius type of energy. So her combination on an emotional level was very grounded and succinct, and then very like, let's have fun. Okay, so she had this combination. As she's showing me this, and she's showing me herself growing up, she's showing me herself as a 10-year-old. And I'm looking at her body. She's looking down and she's looking at her stomach, and she's putting her hands over her stomach like this. So I'm asking in my head right now what that means. She's telling me about the digestion issues that she had as a kid, and she's also telling me that she doesn't like her belly. She's 10, okay? But this is what she's kind of showing me. She doesn't like this belly that she perceives on her. And this is what she's saying. I know that it's well publicized and documented eating disorder, but I actually think she started developing bulimia at that time, okay? Now, let me explain a little bit about Virgo. Wherever you find Virgo in a chart, you're going to find exceptional psychic ability, because it comes through in a very logical way. Keep in mind that Amy had a Virgo sun. I believe it was at 21 degrees. And keep in mind that the psychic planet Neptune was conjunct her moon, although it be out of sign. So this girl was exceptionally psychic. And with the Gemini rising, she would have been able to verbalize it just really quickly and write it, okay? Write it, speak it, verbalize it, all right? Which is what she was, a singer who wrote stuff, and she sang this, and she sang it in grand style. That's very intuitive from the other side. But she's also saying that the level of stress, because the Virgo, keep in mind, it's a very myopic sign. So the focus is, that's interesting, the focus is narrow with Virgo as well. So the focus is very narrow, and they can continue to get a thought in their head and continue to ruminate and be repetitive. So a person with a Virgo sun is very prone to anxiety and to continuing to feel certain things. She's connecting to the solar plexus, which is in your stomach, basically below the belly button. She's connecting there to the root chakra, and she's also connecting to the actual physicality of how her body looked and her stomach. I do feel when she looks at her stomach as a 10-year-old, she's flashing back into the past life that she left. And I do feel like there was another baby in her stomach at that time. She may not have known when she passed out, but that's what I feel. That's where I feel the focus is, on the stomach in this lifetime. I do feel she started to develop bulimia at the age of 10. That's what I feel, okay? So I feel like this started to come into her head with the repetitive thinking. I also am seeing with her, now I know her parents were very close to her. I know that she speaks very highly of her parents, or at least says they were supporting of her. I kind of see it a little bit differently. I see her, and this is a very odd thing to say, given her behavior, given everything about her, I see her as the adult within the family structure. So there's her mother and her father, who I don't feel were well suited for each other. They were suited, but then they weren't suited. The mother seemed to have taken up trying to give Amy everything that she wanted to make up for what the father was doing, who wasn't really paying attention to her, but was paying attention to her, but for his own purpose. So his daughter was something that he held up in a certain way and focused on in a certain way, given the behavior and what she was able to accomplish. Amy's accomplishments were recognized very early on, that that melodic, unique voice came through, she was helped by who she was in the past life. She was hell-bent, this is what she's saying, in this life of finishing that life because she wasn't able to finish it. So she wanted to climb the ladder of success and she wanted to get back to where she was. Now she is showing me one of her band members or one of the people that went up on stage with her. And I feel like he was partially percussionist. That's what I feel. I want to use the word like not necessarily drums, but percussion. Okay. So he was beat oriented. He followed her from a past life as well. The two of them were hooked up in the band last time. So when she saw him, she knew him. And it was some kind of an audition where she walked in and she was just looking for a backup band to do her work. And she saw him and she's like, oh, I know you. Well, I'm sure she didn't say it like that, but she liked his style and brought him in. So she was trying to connect. That's what the time in between the lifetimes were, is that certain people had to be born and be adults and then connect back again. And then she was able to come through. It took her a while to recognize and to agree to what she wanted to come through to. What she's telling me is she knew that in this life at this time, these same circumstances would come back around, but in a different way. So she was hesitant to be reborn that quickly because it was going to come back around in a different way. So if you end up leaving your life because of drugs over here and you come back in and you're like, I don't know what we agreed to on the other side and I don't know why we agreed to it, but we agreed to it. So she was like, I'm going to come through. I'm going to be this different person, but we're going to have the same outcome. Now, here's what's interesting. As she started to climb the ladder, what really bothered her, and this bothered her beyond, was, okay, it's not the focus of like people saying you're, when you go out in the public eye and they say, you're this, you're that, you can't sing, you can sing, you're ugly, you're cute, you're fat, you're skinny, you're tall, whatever the hell people say. It wasn't that bothered her. It was the intention behind the people as they watched her on stage. She's showing me that this almost gave her a nervous breakdown. Like okay, so she's on stage and she's singing and she's being herself and she's watching, but as she's watching, she's absorbing their thinking. This made her crazy beyond, okay? Just made her absolutely crazy where she couldn't understand what was happening, what she was feeling. So she got very confused about what she was feeling, how she was feeling. Amy knew and understood that in this life, things were not going to happen exactly the same way. So there was that undercurrent of, I have to get this done now because I'm going to exit soon. So she always knew she was going to pass soon. What is incredibly interesting is underneath everything, as she was beginning to feel the energy of her vast audiences looking at her, that was overwhelming for her. So I'm looking at her, look at herself, and she's kind of receding and hiding and shutting down. It was too much for her to handle. And now I don't feel her drug addiction, as it's called, okay? She started this behavior, especially with the cigarettes and the hair, from the past life. This is who she was over here. So it was the image of who she was. Now, as I'm listening to her, it's kind of interesting. And I thought maybe I could develop something like this where you could help people let go of their past lives so that they could be fully integrated in this life without shades of that life being overtly on them. Because I think sometimes it can be our downfall if we are from here, but we're not free to live here. So she had that issue, but she is showing me the cigarettes. This was an image for her. This is who she wanted to present herself as. She was a horrible choice with men. She said her mother was somebody who raised her up and brought her down, raised her up and brought her down, gave her great freedoms and then great restrictions, great freedoms and great restrictions. It was her father's attention she was trying to get. Of course, this wasn't exactly going to happen that way, but that's what she was trying to do. And part of her energy in this life, part of what she was here to learn, was how to become a person who could utilize the energies around them, the undercurrent, the unseen energies, and harness it and create and develop something different. Now, she is showing me that about 4 years before she passed, so 23, because I believe she was 27 when she passed. So about 23, I feel like she signed on with different management company, and this is when stuff started to go down. She's showing me the mental mind games they're playing with her. So they're telling her one thing and doing another. They're suggesting she present herself this way, but she's presenting herself that way. She's getting confused, okay? So there's confusion around it. She is saying that the boyfriend she had in the last part of her life kind of just fell into her lap and she felt she should do this. I also feel when it comes to her passing, I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to say this, okay? I know that they, I believe, said alcohol poisoning. It might have been drugs too. But I actually feel with her, it was the bulimia, the confusion, the mind games, and the will to live. So I'm seeing her kind of slump down on, like, against the wall and slump down and just kind of be like, I can't get out of this. I can't get away from this. I'm seeing that with her. So I feel like she felt very trapped at the end through her obligations musically, and it wasn't becoming fun for her. She was actually becoming terrified, and the things that people were saying to her was making her even more terrified about stepping out on stage. Although the audience reaction to her music was intense. And again, she's showing me, okay, she's literally flipping through lifetimes. So when I look over here, she's the black lady from like the 40s singing in the speakeasy. And when I flip over here, she's Amy Winehouse and she's flipping back and forth. She had these people in her, okay? She had both of these people in her, and she was trying to bring out that woman to accomplish this woman. She would have had to have been in control of her own career at that point, which is part of the issue from the past life. And they weren't going to let her do that. Now, her karma, she's telling me, was very much about creating her own style, her own work, her own everything, but they weren't going to let her do that either. She wasn't going to be able to do that. So she had this problem where she knew she was supposed to do something. She had to do it quickly. She is showing me, as I'm looking at her as she passed, okay, she's showing me that she's slumped down against a wall, okay? I know they found her, I want to say they found her asleep in her bed, but I feel like she was placed there. Because she's showing me she's leaning down on a wall, her head's down like this, she's kind of sick to her stomach, so she's not feeling well. She may have even thrown up a little bit, so there's something to do with aspiration at that point. I don't know that she's as drunk or the alcohol poisoning is exactly the way they're saying it. I guess it is alcohol poisoning if you have alcohol poisoning. But the way that I'm seeing it is she had malnutrition and she had bulimia. So bulimia and her body wasn't processing. That's how I'm seeing it. Now that's a different thing because maybe I could have drank as much as she drank and not had a problem with it. I am seeing bottles hidden all over her apartment and even under her pillow. She has like a flask under her pillow. I am seeing that. Now, at the time that she passed, her boyfriend was wandering off everywhere. He was going here, he was going there, but he wasn't really with her. So as they say, she was drinking alone, so to speak. She was talking to people on the phone, but nobody was really close or comfortable. And there's people outside bothering her, telling her what to do. They're all outside her apartment. They're telling her, you need to do this, you need to do that, stop doing this. Everything is just too public, too overwhelming, too public, too overwhelming. And at the point that she's passing, she's like, I'm just gonna go. Like, I see her, I wonder if she actually, they say alcohol poisoning, but I'm seeing her float. And she's just allowing herself to be taken away. That's what she's showing me. She's allowing that. Now, when she crossed out of her body this time, the first feeling I get is betrayal right off the bat. Betrayal. Somebody was in the apartment with her. I see her being picked up like under the arms. I see her being dragged to a different position, which I actually believe is on the bed. They're picking her up. They're rolling her over. I see something covering her feet. Her feet are a weird color. She bites her nails too. She bites the nails, but her feet were a weird color. So she's already lost the oxygen by the time they found her. So at least they didn't let her die. But because her feet are just like a weird color, and she rolls over, and then I feel like she's out of body, but she feels betrayed. She feels betrayed. Okay, the word husband, and I don't know if she was married. I don't know if she left the husband, married another husband, or who the husband was, but betrayed by the husband, betrayed by the father. The mother was complacent and predictable in the behavior that she exhibited. And I'm feeling the reason it took Amy so long to come through is she was kind of taken right out of that environment and whooshed over here. And there were a lot of things she had to deal with. I would almost say to you that whoever moved her body and helped her with her addictions was the same person that did the same thing in the last life. Only they switched appearances, came back, and this is something she's kind of showing me that. I don't know why we choose to do that. I don't even know what we feel like on the other side, but she's showing me that. So I feel like this was in tandem, lifetime to lifetime. She's linking the two together. That's what I'm getting right now. Anyway, from Amy Winehouse, I'm going to do another video, of course. But for now, my name is Sloan from SloanBella.com.